Beautiful. Getting a coffee, huh? Yeah, 6 o'clock in the morning, and the flies are already not even 6 o'clock. It's 5:55, and the flies are already out. Incredible. To beat though watching a sunrise in the Simpson Desert. Cross-country life. Look at that. Wow, that's a big one. Definitely pays to check your tires every morning. Oh, actually better evening when you stop for the day. I mean, in the morning you will see whether you did a good job, because if you have a flat, you didn't. Well, everything else looks good. Gonna pull that one out. The observant one of my followers probably noticed that I run new tires. No BFG KM3 anymore, and you're probably wondering why. Pretty simple. No issues with the KM3s. I still like that tire. It's a brilliant tire. I used it for many years. But the fact is, they haven't had any tires in my size for the past year nearly. And I was due for a new set. I have run the Nitto before, but I never done a desert trip with them. So that's my first desert trip with the Nittos. And this is also a cross-country trip. And you can see here, good strong mud terrain tires really make a difference. And the Nittos are a 10-ply sidewall. It's also a heavier tire, so you know there are pros and cons to everything. But for cross-country travel, it is probably the slightly stronger tire. I wasn't sure how well they would work in sand, how much I would have to air down, and I had a little bit of a concern that I may have to air down too low, that the tire could spin on the rim. But that's not the case. I'm running 15.5 warm in the rear and 14.5 in the front. That's warm and a little bit lower than the KM3s. I would run the same pressure in the KM3s but cold, so it would be around 2 to 3 psi higher after driving. And so far brilliant. I mean, no issues whatsoever. I don't really notice any difference in driving. I mean, cross country here, up and down the dunes, through muddy clay pans. I'm happy with them. But as I said, I have used them before, and I know they're a good tire. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run them, in the first place. But yeah, again, KM3s, I will run again at some stage, but this also gives me a chance now to test different tires, because the KM3 is not the only good tire out there, that is for sure. So the Nitto now, and one other tire is the Wrangler Kevlar, which I have on my list, which I would like to test, and possibly even a Toyo. But we will see. First, I'm gonna run the Nittos now, and yeah, so far very good. And this is hard as desert wood. There's another one here. So the Bluetti EB3A also has pass-through charging. So at the moment I'm charging my drone batteries over here, or my drone battery, my Mavic battery here. I'm charging my Fitbit, but I also have it plugged into the cigarette lighter port of my Land Cruiser, which runs two lithium batteries, two 100 amp hour DCS lithium batteries. So I'm charging now with 83 watts. Mind you, the output is 115 watts because I'm using 220 volt here. But yeah, it has passed through charging, which yeah, is good. So far has done exactly what it's supposed to do. Having accomplished the mission for this leg of the trip, it was now time to get back out on the main tracks. But as you can see here, the weather really started to change and close in. And one of the benefits of a satellite phone is that I can get weather updates. And the forecast did not look too great. 30 degrees is not a crazy angle, but if you sit in it and drive down, it feels like you're driving into the abyss. On this kind of terrain, I drive my Land Cruiser with a 5-speed automatic in manual mode and just lock in the first gear. Going down reasonably steep dunes, you want to stay straight and not brake too much. Even in an automatic, lock it into the lowest gear and then let the gear do the braking. If required, you can feather the brakes a little, but make sure that you don't come to a standstill or lock the wheels. Steven just called in that he did a tyre. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I could hear it, but it was going around. Seems to be okay, Cop.
I often compare the Simpson Desert to an ocean out of sand. With all the sand dunes, and especially when you cross country, it is very close to a choppy ocean, because you certainly can get seasick here. I am not, which is good, but especially as a passenger, that yeah, is quite wobbly here, shaking up and down. That's as bad as any choppy ocean, I reckon. You certainly also need to be as self-sufficient as you would be in the middle of the ocean, because out here no one is going to come out and rescue you. The only way to get out here is by yourself. So not for the faint-hearted. You have to be very well prepared and really know what you're doing, and ideally have at least 3 vehicles, better 4, because any substantial error here or any snake bite. Terry this morning on his ablution stop nearly stepped on an inland taipan, so there's certainly some risks out here, but I guess that's part of the adventure, huh? At least for me it is. So Stephen, where are we here? Q84?
This is the Q84 clay pan that Reg Sprigg used as a meeting point and a landing strip for resupply of fuel and food for his magnetic survey teams, which were coming down the swales. They met here because they could land a plane here and resupply, and Reg was able to jump in the plane and do a bit more scouting, because one of the crew had missed another clay pan and would not have been able to find it had they not launched a plane from here and chased him up.
That's certainly nice and flat here, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a pilot, but I think I could put a Cessna down here if I had to.
Aren't you, Chopper, aren't you a pilot? Are you going to put a Cessna down here?
I would, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep. Yep, you get one down in here, all right, no problem. Plenty of room.
So we're having lunch at the back of my car. Chop here. And Terry is in the dining room.
Can you see it?
I can, with table and everything.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Kind of. What's that on that?
Look
top
at
of that?
this.
Everything has two purposes.
Yeah, that is perfect.
This is a fly-free zone.
Yeah, I like that idea. How did you fix it?
Velcro.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, off the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah?
Come from, somebody in WA made it. I sent them the measurements and they made up.
Yeah, especially as you sleep in it, that means you have plenty of airflow.
I used to have two plastic, the screens like you got on yours,
Yeah.
but this one come off. But then with it like that, it can be, I can have the window down halfway, unless the rain's horizontal.
Perfect. One of the many reasons to carry the Ryobi air blower with me is to clean the underside of the car if I drive through a lot of Spinifex. Spinifex built up under the car, more so in petrol vehicles, can ignite the Spinifex and burn the car down. There are quite a few examples of that on the Canning stock route. I also use it to start fires, blow up my mattresses and undust the car before opening the rear gate. We are still chasing oil wells and just about to enter Erabena 1, also one of the old abandoned oil wells. No oil drilling really in the Simpson, however in the surrounding deserts like the Streslecki and so on, Mumbai, you have a lot of oil drilling. No, that's the engineer's idea, isn't it, Terry?
8,480 feet.
Still holding up well. It was already a bit later in the afternoon, so Stephen made Erabena 1 our camp for the night. Famous.
Infamous is the word.
So what's for dinner?
For dinner tonight is pasta and meatballs. The pasta is in the
From the camp oven.
camp oven, not quite boiling yet, I don't think. We could look. Just starting to come onto the boil. When that's done, I'll put the meatballs in it and warm them through because they're already cooked.
You're gonna put the water out, yeah?
It'll probably boil out. There'll still be a little bit left, but that it'll boil. A, the pasta absorb it, and B, the rest will leak out the rim.
Model, eh? You a model? Well, look out, something's happening here.
Early morning, I had a look at my Fitbit and it said 6 something, and usually I'm up just before 5, but we crossed the border again, so I think that times have adjusted because no one else is up yet. Mind you, there's a little bit of red appearing behind the back. So today we have another cross-country leg coming. Let me demonstrate you the biggest downfall of the Bunker Pro from OzTent and why I really usually prefer the OzTrail stretcher, even though they also changed the design of the fly. But to getting into these things is just absolutely painful. Unless you unhook everything, unzip these, roll these up, which is a huge effort, and it's flapping then constantly in the wind. To get into these is just ridiculous, you know, because for someone my size I gotta pretty much do this and then jump in, which is pretty awkward, especially at night. You usually let this one close. Just not a good solution at all. On these cross-country leg, we try to locate 2 more of Rex Briggs clay pans. The 2 clay pans are P and T84. These also turned out to be the most challenging terrain on this trip, with a few dune attempts for some of the group. The T84 clay pan was a gravity survey station along the T Traverse. Rex Briggs revisited these spots again in 1964 when he was doing his south to north crossing of the desert. He hammered out a brass plaque attached to a stake. We tried to locate these plaques, but unfortunately couldn't. This is an image of the Sprigg family and the 3 survey teams at T84. This was in 1962 when the family and the teams met up there. You can see the white cloths covering the T, so it could be identified from the air. At the foot of the T you can also see where they scratched out the letters T84 in the dirt. Also around the white T are tire tracks in a circle. This was done to further help it to be spotted from the Cessna aircraft. Let me show you now a few of the dune crossings which needed a few attempts. Keep in mind, Tony, the Land Cruiser, has a manual, everyone else has auto gearboxes. We're heading east-west cross-country. There are some big dunes to cross here. A few attempts from Tony on some of them, or on one of the dunes. But it's also, if you stay in someone else's tire tracks, it makes it way more difficult. That's again a big dune in front of us. 634 kilometers in. We'll see fuel-wise. I reckon I have another 300, 350, 20 Jerry. But at the moment we are in the middle of nowhere. This definitely was one of the trickier dunes because you had to do 2 sharp S-bends, and that on a reasonably soft and steep dune, and especially in a manual gearbox is not that easy. I didn't pay too much notice how to drive the actual dune, as I was more concentrated filming, and I was quite surprised how sharp a turn I had to do, which I kind of missed. So halfway up the dune I had to reverse a little bit, but managed to start without an issue and just drive it without a problem. Yeah, really got to pick your right spot, ideally, which Stephen tried to from the previous dune. See a little weakness in the dune, a little gap, or the angle a bit easier, but it's often very deceiving because then you stand in front of it and you didn't see that big holes or the big lumps. It's not such an easy matter. And if you consider people, have difficulties getting up one of the dunes on the French line, or many of the dunes on the French line, which are compacted by hundreds and thousands of cars, this here is a very different kettle of fish. Yeah, I'm traveling now 9 days with the guys from the Long Range Desert Group. You never know who you get if you join on a trip with someone you've never traveled before. Some people travel very different, have different risk assessments, different skill sets. I realized that 2 years ago on that desert trip where the group I joined had a very different risk assessment. They had cars I personally wouldn't travel in the desert with in regards to maintenance and so on. So now here with Stephen, Terry and Tony, absolutely no issue. Great guys, everyone knows what he's doing. No one has to explain anything. Everyone runs the correct tire pressure. All the cars are in top shape. And yeah, it's just a pleasant driving. So very happy with that and looking forward to more trips. I often get asked why I have 3 antennas on the car. Very simple, I run 2 GME UHFs. One is on the desert channel, one is on the group channel, and the third antenna is for the Selfie Go mobile booster. So guys, that was it for the second last episode. In the next and last episode, I managed to film what exactly makes the big holes on some of the dunes. I will show Steven's issues with the Dobinson MRR and my only failure on the trip on the Land Cruiser. We also come across a giant snake, the biggest I have ever seen in the Simpson, and have to make a hasty exit from the Simpson due to worsening weather conditions. I cover me driving home, always one step ahead of road closures, and I also tell you about Steven's catastrophic failure of the patrol, and the tire was only the start. So guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please keep in mind this is a self-funded channel, so I would greatly appreciate if you could help me out by sharing, liking and subscribing. And if you can, please consider head over to Patreon or buy me a coffee, and with the equivalent of a cup of coffee or two per month, you can really help me making these videos. Thanks a lot for watching and see you along the tracks.